Cheers, Rockets fans. Welcome to The Locker Line, an exclusive podcast from the home of the Rockets.
Whoa!
Sports Talk 790.
Rockets!
The Locker Line is proudly served to you by Carbox Clutch City Lager.
It is good!
Oh, yeah? Red Nation, get ready. Get ready. The Locker Line starts now.
Welcome aboard.
What's up, guys? How's it going? My name is Ben Dubose, editor of USA Today's Rockets Wire, contributor to Sports Talk 790, the official flagship radio station of the Rockets in Houston. This is the Lager Line, sponsored by Clutch City Lager of Carbach Brewing, bringing you inside the Houston Rockets, telling you everything that's going on with this basketball team, which is currently 2-1 in Summer League play in Las Vegas, as we're chatting this Wednesday, July 13th. And on today's show, an abbreviated show, but it's abbreviated for a very good reason. We've got a special guest who is quite busy, but thankfully he's given us a few minutes out on the recruiting trail. It's Bruce Pearl, head coach of Auburn University men's basketball. If you've not made the connection yet, Coach Pearl had Jabari Smith Jr. leading his roster this past season. Jabari, of course, the number 3 pick in the 2022 NBA draft by your Houston Rockets. He's currently making a huge difference for the Rockets out in Las Vegas in Summer League. And, of course, there's a ton of excitement here in Houston to break down everything that's going on around Jabari Smith and the Summer Rockets of 2022. So, Coach, I'll start there. I know you've got a lot going on these days, but have you had time to watch Jabari's Summer League games, or at least some of his highlights? And if so, what do you think about how he's played thus far?
Yeah, hey, Ben, great to be with you. I have watched parts of all 3 games so far, and obviously he played the best in the last contest. I would have expected him to shoot the ball the way he shot it in the third game in the first 2, but you can see how he's able to do lots of little things out there, both offensively and defensively. And a real key is he just does not force the issue. He's not trying to be the best player on the floor every night right now. But he will be. And that's where he's going. And so he understands it's a process, and that's what makes him a winner. Because if he was worried about being the best player right now every night, he'd be doing stuff he can't do. He'd be making a mistake. He'd be turning the ball over. He'd be forcing shots. He lets the game come to him. He's really efficient with it, and you'll begin to see him do more and more as he gets older and more comfortable.
One of the things that really impresses me is how level-headed he is, the process over results approach, and it bodes well for how he handles adversity. And I think the fact that he didn't shoot the ball well the first game and a half, the fact that he didn't let it really affect the way that he went about his business. He still took the same shots, still put the same effort on defense. I think that's so critical when it comes to young players and how they develop. They're not going to develop bad habits. They're not going to get their confidence shattered, anything like that. Is that what you saw out of him at Auburn, that type of just level-headed, process-oriented approach?
Exactly. Man, that's really good now. You're a media guy, and that's a really good basketball actually evaluation. No, it's really solid, and it's really true. I think what it stems from is his preparation. The fact that he is such a consistent trainer, and he's got a very strong inner confidence. He does believe in himself, but he's also humble and hungry. So there's a real balance between. I don't think he's arrogant, but he's confident. He's cocky, but he's also humble and hungry. It's a beautiful blend. And I think so. What he does, he relies on his training. He focuses on the process, not necessarily the end result. He doesn't like losing. He's not a good loser at all. He can bounce back from losing, but he does understand. He understands the road that he's on, and he does understand the road he's traveling on. And so that level-headedness made him very consistent. I mean, he had some great games, but he didn't have any really bad games. Like he's either good or great. And that's a pretty good quality to have.
The play that stood out the most to me was at the end of the Oklahoma City game, which was the Jabari against Chet Holmgren matchup. The Rockets were up by 1 with under 15 seconds left in the game. OKC had the ball. Somebody poked it out, and Jabari dove on the floor, saved the ball, somehow had the awareness to stay inbounds, called timeout. Rockets ended up running out the clock and winning that game. Actually, he ended up getting a stop on Josh Giddey as time expired, which is another great play. But when you have your most talented player also be willing to do the little things, the dirty work, diving on the court, as a coach, what kind of tone does that set to have the rest of your guys hopefully fall in line?
Well, that's a tone setter, Ben, right there. Just that effort, energy, the fact that it will impact winning, being able to guard 1 through 4, getting that last stop, getting that last 50-50 ball. Look, he's going to make mistakes, but he is going to be a guy that the coaches can point to with what time he gets in the locker room, how he practices every single day. All right. He's going to be incredibly consistent. He's not going to have highs and lows like a lot of rookies because he's not immature. He will spend time in the gym on recovery. He doesn't have any distractions off the floor. You can coach him. He wants to be coached hard. So if coach wants to get after his number 3 pick, and get into him, that's not going to bother Jabari one bit, but it sends a message. If I'm going to chew on this guy, I'm going to chew on your ass as well. And so he'll be able to, set a really good standard, for all those reasons. And that's why one of the reasons why his teams win.
One of the things that really interests me about Jabari, and especially within the past week, there's been so much about Jabari and Paolo Banchero, Jabari and Chet, and really they've been linked for the past 9 months because everybody's known that those 3 guys were the top 3 picks in the upcoming NBA draft. Yet one of the things that really interests me is Jabari wasn't always in the high school recruiting rankings. I know they're flawed, but he was not always at Paolo or Chet's level. They were always the 1-2. Jabari, was generally like 6, 7, 8, somewhere in that range. Of course, he was still a very big time recruit, 5-star, all that stuff. But coach, is there a point that you knew that you didn't just have a 5-star, that you had a guy who was legitimately at the top of his class?
Hey, Ben, who are you and where are you from? Like, dude, you're like on top of your game. Like, here's the deal. I've said that several times, but I've never got that question from anybody. So you're doing your homework. You're right. It was always Pablo and Chet. Always. It was a 2-man race forever. Jabari Smith or anybody else in that class was never even in the conversation. And so, Jabari Smith did not own a Kentucky offer or a Duke offer or a North Carolina offer. I'm not being critical of those programs. That's the standard. Those are the blue bloods. Those are the ones that they could take anybody, that they want. And maybe it's because he was too thin, or maybe it was because they looked at him as just this or just that, and they didn't see all that intangible. I'm not saying that, but you're right. And then as a result, what happens is he comes to Auburn. He gains some strength. He is able to show, look, I'm more than just a jump shooter. And he demonstrates that by putting Auburn on the mat to the point where in January and through the month of mid-February, we were the best team in college basketball. We were playing as well as anybody. We were ranked number 1 for 3 weeks. And that was in large part because of Jabari. So as a result of our team's success and everybody kind of getting them to answer some questions about what they didn't think he could do, he then rose up the ranks and put himself at the end, right before the draft, where it actually had it reversed, where it was Jabari 1, Pablo or Chet 2, and then 3. But the way the balls fell, the way it went down, was kind of the way it always has been. And so look, I think all 3 teams got terrific players. Those 3 kids are all terrific players, and hopefully each one will be a fit and satisfies the need. The one team that's going to is the one team that's going to get the most either credit or criticism will be Orlando, because they had the pick. They had the first pick, and they made the choice.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that's interesting about you and the Rockets is that Jabari is not your only link. I know that Auburn was also a finalist for Jalen Green, so you got to know Jalen and his mom very well through that process, and I know you've watched him a bit with the Rockets this past season. How do you think Jalen and Jabari are going to fit together as players and as people, for that matter?
Well, I think they'll fit really, really well. I did, I did get to know Jalen and his mom and his sister really, really well. Loved that kid. And, was so blessed that he wanted to come to play for me at Auburn. And, it wasn't until sort of a last minute G League run that he decided to go that direction. If we had had a normal year and it wasn't a COVID season, then I would have felt badly for Jalen a little bit, because he would have missed that once in a lifetime college freshman experience to be on his campus, just like Jabari had, just like the world gold gymnast Suni Lee had here at Auburn. Man, you just can't, you made lifelong friends, and Jabari Smith made history at Auburn. Jalen would have done the same thing, but it was a COVID year. And so he didn't miss as much. And the bottom line is, look where he is right now. Jalen Green got there. He got there in a way that was a little different. So love that kid. And let me tell you something. You want to talk about confidence and a swagger, and wanting to be the best player in the NBA, like wanting to be the best player in the league, not just the best player, not just an NBA All-Star. And so, and he's got the freak to do it. Jalen does. And I think they'll be great teammates. I think they'll be great together.
Yeah, I think the case for optimism is that Jalen's and Jabari's strengths are kind of complementary, in that Jalen's a guy who can clearly create his own shot. If anything, his weakness is on the defensive end right now. And of course, Jabari, the strengths are with shooting and with defense, the shot creation you want to come over time. So it allows each of them to sort of gradually build on their weaknesses as opposed to trying to do too much too soon. The other thing I think the Rockets have that's really useful with Jabari is a coach in Steven Silas that's pretty good at using bigs in space. One of my favorite writers, Nikias Duncan, did a piece talking about how the Rockets used Christian Wood and especially Kelly Olynyk a year ago with some off-ball movement, and compared it to the way that you used Jabari at Auburn. How much does getting a big involved off-ball like Jabari get him going at this point in his career where shot creation isn't quite there yet?
Yeah, well, I mean, one or two things are going to happen. His man is either going to stay out there with him and not be involved in rotations and help, which is going to make the other four guys better, or his man is going to go ahead and play some team defense, and Jabari is going to get a lot of opportunity to make open shots, and so it puts the Rockets offense, in a win-win, situation. If you can get Jabari to the elbows, he will shoot over people. He's got a pretty good rip game. But obviously getting him open looks beyond that 3-point line is what he's going to do best. And interesting, a lot of shooters really need to shoot off the bounce. They really need to shoot it where that ball comes off the floor into the pocket and then rise up into your shooting stroke. Jabari can catch it, and he can put it above his head in that really high shooting carriage and have an incredibly high ball flight. He can shoot over the top of everybody, and he could do it off the catch, which I think is going to make him, really, really. What are you going to do with him on the perimeter? The answer is you better guard him. So it's going to be 5-on-4 as far as help rotations.
So full disclosure, I'm an SEC basketball guy. That's how I know some of this stuff. I'm a big Missouri fan. I graduated from Mizzou a few years ago. So, I know the league fairly well. And obviously you do, coaching Auburn. And I know you went up against Houston's other 2 first-round picks, Tari Eason and TyTy Washington. Tari Eason in particular has just been insanely good in Las Vegas, a double-double every game, arguably one of the best players, period, out there. And of course, he's 21 years old, ripped, he's developed. Does their success surprise you in any way this early in Summer League?
No, I think, Houston had the best draft, of anybody getting Jabari at 3. I thought Eason, for his size, was the best athlete in the draft. Gives him unbelievable flexibility to play him as an undersized 5. He can shoot it. He can rip it. He can score through contact. He's got some physicality and some toughness to him, a little edge. I think he can even put on more weight and more strength and be even more effective in that area as an enforcer. And then TyTy's just got an old school mid-range game. I thought when he got hurt for Kentucky, that's when their season really, really changed. And he had that kind of impact in the locker room and that kind of impact on the floor, both offensively and defensively. So they got 3 guys who are going to play a lot of basketball for him over the next several years.
Yeah, that's the hope for sure. My last question for you. 5 years from now, what do you think people are saying about Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, and this era of don't want to say the Auburn Tigers in Houston, but at least the Auburn affiliations in Houston?
Well, just that those guys wanted to be great. They got better every year. They made others better on their team, and they got an opportunity to go from where they were to where they want to be. And Houston will be a playoff team, and those guys will be the backbone.
Yeah. Will we see you out here at some point, I'm guessing?
You know how it is in season. It's really, really busy. But yeah, I would love to be able to come out there sometime. I'll visit my friend Calvin Sampson, and we'll go down there and take in a Rockets game. I would imagine I could get a pretty decent seat by calling either Jalen or Jabari.
Yeah, I would think so. Folks, he is Coach Bruce Pearl. You can follow him on Twitter at Coach Bruce Pearl. I'm Ben Dubose. Follow me on Twitter at Ben Dubose. That'll do it for this episode of The Lager Line, sponsored by Clutchley Lager of Carbach Brewing. Thanks as always to you for listening and to Coach Bruce Pearl for stopping by. Have a good one, guys.